Smoke. OVS. Old Virginia Smoke.
This podcast is brought to you by the Kansas City BBQ Store, the official provider of barbecue supplies to listeners of Pitmaster. The dog days of summer are here, which means it's prime barbecue season. The grills are kicking, and as we get in those last days of summer, you really got to make sure you have what you need. But it also means that the American Royal is right around the corner. From smokers and fuel to rubs and sauces, the Kansas City BBQ Store has everything and anything you could want. Make the Kansas City BBQ Store your one-stop shop for everything that you need for the American Royal. I know that I will. This year at the American Royal, we'll be doing our first live Pitmaster podcast broadcast from Kansas Speedway with the great folks of the Kansas City BBQ Store. We hope to have a lot of teams come by and say hi, and we think it's going to be a lot of fun. So as a listener of the Old Virginia Smoke Pitmaster podcast, you can get 10% off of your order this American Royal season by using the code PITPOD, PITPOD, and for online orders at www.thekansascitybarbecuestore.com. All right, special treat this week on Pitmaster and Old Virginia Smoke podcast. Number one, we're doing an in-person recording. And number two, it's with my first mentor in barbecue, Mr. Chris Capell with Dizzy Pig. How are you, my friend?
Doing really good, Luke. How are you doing, man? Glad to be here talking to you in person. You always put a smile on my face.
Yeah, man, it's a beautiful day. We're drinking some beers and talk about some barbecue. I remember the first time I met you was at a contest out in Bluemont, Virginia, and I was cooking with a different team called. Or the first team I was on called Smoke Dreams, and the guy, Kirk, great guy, but they were very insular and didn't like to get out and meet people, and I'm not like that, so I was out walking around, and I met you, and you're like, try these rubs, man, try these out. I tried them, I was like, man, this is something, and then went back, and I was like, hey, you guys ought to go over there and try it. No, we're good, what we're doing. I'm like, so then you fast forward a couple years, and we cooked our first contest as Old Virginia Smoke at Barbecue Jamboree in Fredericksburg.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
And I walked over, and you remembered me, and we started talking, and you offered to switch meats with me in my first contest. And tell me what you thought.
What?
To switch meats.
Switch meats with you.
Yeah. So I took you over all four of my entries, and
oh, yeah. So we could each try each other's stuff.
Yeah.
Which I love doing with teams. I think it helps a lot.
And we try and do it every contest now with somebody just to see what else.
Yeah.
And I remember coming to talk to you afterwards, and you were like, "Your chicken and ribs were good. You're going to finish 12th or 13th in those, but your pork and brisket, they need work.
Right.
You're going to be down in the 30s on those." And I'll be damned if we weren't 12th in chicken, 13th in ribs, and then in the 30s in brisket and pork. You got it right on the head. So from there on, it just, you were one of our first sponsors. You were the first class I took. You've always been there.
Yeah, I'm here. And I'm still here, just not competing anymore.
It's also a very cool week coming up. The American Royal is coming up.
Wow.
And I remember my first Royal. You took me to a couple of the historical barbecue restaurants around Kansas City.
Oh, yeah, we did Oklahoma Joe's, and
I think we did Arthur Bryant's too.
Yeah, Arthur Bryant's.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good time. And we were there 8 years in a row, which is just crazy when you think about the 1,100 miles that you have to drive. We had a place we called the St. Louis Triangle, which is where the axle would always come off the trail, or we burn up a set of bearings. We blew the whole wheel off, and it was all right around St. Louis. We called it the St. Louis Triangle.
Cool, man. Well, this has been a long time in coming, so let's get into some of these questions. One of the most, I think, and if you haven't tried the Dizzy Pig rubs, like, you need to get to a barbecue supply store around you and get those on your shelf right now.
Or get online. You can buy them fresh from the source here.
Get them straight from the source here at Dizzy Pig. We use them every day in our house, and that's been one of the most impressive things about you to me is your palate and the tastes and flavors that you've come up with. But I think that also comes from a place of confidence in what you're doing. Where does that confidence come from?
Well, I mean, confidence it usually happens. I mean, you have it if you know what you're going to do, or like you have a plan. I mean, obviously with creating seasonings, there's kind of a lot of patience and a lot of trial and error and a lot of trying, but I knew that I could find that end flavor. And
right.
a few of our seasonings, like Bayou-ish, for instance, took me 3 years. I just had to walk away from it a few times. The same with Crossroads, which was
I remember that one.
Our traditional, 13 ingredient traditional barbecue rub that shouldn't offend anybody. That took me a really long time, and I had to walk away. But I always had the confidence that I would be able to find that flavor. I mean, you need a little bit of patience to have confidence for sure. But yeah, like as far as competitions go, it's about that plan. It's about knowing what you're going to do. I was just like thinking about that too, because Rod Gray is the one who really helped us out early on in our competition career when he said, once you get a call in a category, you need to lock in what you're doing. And like that'll help you develop a system that everybody understands and that you can carry out every time. And he said, if you do bad in the next competition after getting a call, you can't change anything. You can't change one thing until you don't do well for 3 competitions, and then by then you shouldn't have some kind of problem that you have to solve, but you can only make one change. and that helped us to develop a system that gave us confidence because everybody knew what we were going to do and win. Right.
And that's, you're saying these words right now at a very good time for me.
Right.
Because I'm having a problem in a meet, and in the past 2 contests, I've just done something completely different each time, and it's.
Oh yeah.
And I know better.
Yeah.
I know better. What am I doing?
Sometimes you're sitting looking at those score sheets, and some other team members might be around and said, "I told you should have used this sauce," or I've been saying we should do it this way, and yeah, you can get going down the wrong road real quick.
Absolutely. It's yeah. I think I just need to re-listen to that lesson.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
It was hard. It was hard, especially when there was other people on the team with good ideas. But you never really know, like, is that really what we need to change,
Right.
Because the judging is so wacky, and you know that.
Absolutely. Your career has been a lot of it's been barbecue, but you've done some stuff before that. How's your career and life experiences outside of barbecue prepared you to be a?
Well, I guess as I was a creative professional, so I was a graphic artist for 20 years before I started like Dizzy Pig. So it was a creative. I had to be creative. I had to be creative on call.
Right.
Sometimes creativity comes at certain times, but I had to be creative, and so that experience obviously gave me but instead of working with colors, I'm working with flavors now, right? But there's a lot of similarities in the creative process between the two. Also, another experience outside of barbecue that really made a difference was in 1983. My roommate was like, I'm gonna have a beer and ale tasting party. There wasn't any microbrews really at that time. America was not the best in the world at brewing beer like they are now. Like it was a lot of imports that we had. We had Canadian beers, we had German beers, and we had to write down what we thought about these flavors. He had like 17 different beers, and he was serving 7-ounce samples. Imagine what would happen at the end of that night. But we had to write down and really think what was going on, with the maltiness of it, with the sweetness. What happens 30 seconds after it's in your mouth. And a lot of people think of taste as one thing, like when it first hits your mouth. But we all know, especially good cooks and pit masters know that it's a process. I mean, it goes on for a while, and so you're learning about that and how to start picking out certain flavors. That came from the beer tasting. And then with my wife being Vietnamese originally and cooking Vietnamese food, and 7 sisters that also are cooking Vietnamese food, I was getting all these different types of food, and I found it fascinating to try to kind of pick out what they were using in there, learning about the ingredients they were using. So, with my wife and Vietnamese food and beer tasting and the creative process, I think all that
perfect storm
helped into.
No, that's great, man. We haven't even begun to talk about all the stuff that you've won in barbecue, which is a lot. There's a lot. If you come to the Dizzy Pig store here, there's trophies pretty much in every corner.
And I love to teach now. I mean, even when I was competing, I was pretty generous with my knowledge with other teams, and didn't really care if they knew exactly what we were doing. They're not going to do it exactly like us anyway. So I've always been pretty open about that. But I'm really enjoying teaching the classes here, teaching all different types of classes on grilling and cooking.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I've been doing some of that myself, and I really just getting a message from somebody that they tried one of your recipes and it came out right, and everybody loved it. There's nothing better.
Or they come back for another class and they're telling you that you basically solved a lot of problems with one thing that I explained to them. It might just be one little concept, but like say using too much charcoal when you're grilling.
Yeah.
A lot of people put way too much charcoal in the grill, and they have a hard time controlling the fire, and have no idea that that's what their problem is. And then when they try it, they're like, "Holy cow, you changed my life!"
Right. One of my favorite things to talk about on here is failures, and a favorite failure where something happened in a competition that you really learned from. And I know I have my share whenever I have to answer these questions.
Yeah.
But do you have a favorite failure of yours?
I was thinking of that the other day, and it wasn't really I don't have any big ones like I have seen, like people having a grease fire and winning the contest. For us, it was we learned a lot from some roller coaster and in our temperatures during the cooking. Or having the fire going out at 3, 4 in the morning.
Yeah.
I mean, that's when a lot of people are putting on their meats. But for us, having a fire go out in the middle of the night when we're putting our food on at 10 o'clock, it's a problem. But when that happened, we were always able to recover and make the adjustment. And in a lot of ways, the food came out better because there was something about that cooling off of the outside of the meat, during that time when the fire was out, where it was still cooking, right? Because it's like the outside temperatures are transferred to the inside. It's not losing any moisture,
Yeah.
So that's kind of, I think, the only thing I could really think of was these roller coasters, and how well the food came out. But that also helped, relax us, where if something bad happens, you stay calm and you make the adjustment,
right,
and you go through with it and hope for the best. And
being adaptable is one of the main things I learned from you. In terms of, it's never going to be the same each cook.
Right.
Each animal is different. you got to treat each animal different, and things are going to happen. And it's getting that experience and learning how to deal with it. when it happens.
And finding those what do you call them, benchmarks, that you would like to see by a certain time.
Right.
Like if you don't see, if the crust on your brisket isn't a certain way, like after like 6 hours, if the spices are still wet on there, something's up. Something going on.
What's been the most surprising thing to come out of competition barbecue for you?
I think probably I knew I would meet new people, but I didn't realize how many lifelong friends I was going to have, from being out there. I mean, we were on the circuit for almost 20 years, traveling to different states, and I've got friends in a lot of different states that I can call up and say, hey, I'm coming into town. And never really thought that would happen.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah,
when you think about it, and I'm going to the biggest family reunion I have next weekend.
Right,
the American Royal.
Oh yeah.
It's just, and now where it is in the Kansas City Speedway, it's like being trapped in a barbecue snow globe.
Right. So are they putting all the invitational teams, together in the same area?
Kind of. It's a little more. It's not as defined as it used to be between the dark side and the. I guess you would say that we're on the quiet side. Now we're also extremely far away from turn-ins.
Oh well, that happens at the Royal.
Yeah, but actually, I don't have anyone behind me. I'm up against the fence.
Hey, you need blockers. I mean, at least at the old Royal, you needed to have blockers.
You still do. It's always good to send two people. But those two people are dog tired after 2 days.
Right. No kidding.
It's 7-8 minutes each way. And I forget how much Kim said she walked last year, but it was over like 7-8 miles between the 2 days.
Holy cow. I believe it. Yeah, like I said, I think we did 8 years in a row going to the Royal, and it was always one of the kind of things you were honored to be in, but the more you did it, the more you got tired just thinking about it. I've done it so many different ways now. In terms of either driving out early, having someone drive with me, flying out. And this year I've gone the full extreme of driving out and doing all that. I'm flying out Sunday night. I've rented an RV, borrowed a pit. I don't have to leave the speedway. I mean, when I say an RV, it's a 35-foot RV. It sleeps 9. The whole team can stay there. We just had so many logistical problems last year. I was like, I am not dealing with any of it. Yeah. I'm just gonna. There's your adjustment, right?
I'm just gonna see how comfortable I can make myself.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, I miss it. That was always quite an experience. My mind is kind of rolling along right now of all the different things that have happened out there in KC and the surrounding area.
Yeah. What do you, and I think I know the answer to this question, but what do you think separates a good pitmaster from a great pitmaster?
Well, the ability to make adjustments is one of the big ones. Like a great pitmaster will be kind of watching for the benchmarks of where they need to be when, and like the more you do it, the more things that you'll see. But it's also the ability to build relationships with other cooks and learning, different like techniques, and the ability to kind of sort out which of that information might help you and which of it might take you down the wrong road.
That's important.
Yeah.
It's so important. Yeah. And I think that's something that I'm really good at.
Right.
I'm really good at ingesting knowledge.
Right.
But I think I'm better at this can work for me or this doesn't work for me. And I mean, I'll be the first person to tell you everything that I learned about barbecue has come from you and Donnie Bray and Chris Hart.
And probably 100 different
Easily.
people.
But it's parsing all of that and putting it together into something
Yeah.
that works for me.
For example, like the buttermilk thing when when Kenny Baker went over to Barbecue Guru and was cooking on their team, and kind of took a lot of like Dizzy Pig's techniques and shared it with Bob Trudnak, and they were doing their thing, and I was like, buttermilk, huh? He's like, yeah, we leave it at the buttermilk overnight, and we think it tenderizes the skin a little bit, and we started doing that. It didn't hurt anything, and I really think the flavor that it adds to it is really special as well.
Yeah.
So just little things like that where,
Yeah, exactly. But it's also the way that you cook it and how that applies
yeah.
moving forward. Because sometimes if you're doing it in a different environment,
Right.
then it might not work the same. So
Yeah, and like obviously a great pitmaster is going to have good organizational abilities and be able and clean up after yourself. Clean up as you go, man. I mean, it doesn't take long to learn that you got to do that.
absolutely.
But not everybody does.
No. I've run into a couple situations, especially when I'm by myself.
Right.
Then I'm like, this is not sustainable. This podcast is brought to you by BarbecueData.com. BarbecueData.com is your one-stop shop for all of your barbecue competition data. Historical data, calls, wins, placements, everything under one roof. It's a great way not only to track yourself in the standings, but also to track how you improve your scores from year to year. Listeners of this podcast can receive 20% off of a new subscription to BarbecueData.com with the code PITPOD. That's one word, all capital letters, PITPOD, PITPOD. So check your team scores, check on others, and do it all on BarbecueData.com. So let's switch gears a little bit here into some gear-related questions. What's one of the most worthwhile investments that you've ever made in competition barbecue?
Yeah, I mean, it was our trailer. I mean, right after we won our first competition, and it was a good money competition. We won $6,500, and I bought my 6x10 trailer that I like Dizzy picked up, put a Get Spun license tag on it, and I didn't have to unload a U-Haul every time that we went. And it was I think our 7th contest. So we did like 6 contests with a U-Haul and had to unpack all this stuff at the end and pack it back up, figure out a place to put it. And so yeah, having that trailer, we put an AC on the trailer, and after we emptied all the stuff out of it, we put cots in there, put 2 cots in there, and have the AC running. You were in that trailer. We called it the ice box.
Absolutely. Freezing in there.
So yeah, that by far was the thing that came to mind.
That's cool. But that's an expensive one. What's a purchase of $100 or less that really has changed your barbecue game?
PVC pipe leg extenders.
Huge.
My
deal.
God. I can't believe how long we were leaning over until we saw somebody with those PVC pipes.
It's I keep a set in the truck, and I keep 2 sets in the J3.
Yeah.
Just because, and I've used them in non-barbecue situations where people are like, oh, I need you to do this.
But you got to buy the right kind of table. You got to look at the legs first.
That's also happened too. That's a great one. That's one of my favorite questions, just because people have come up with some really ingenious things.
That's funny.
Like the butter cutter.
Yeah.
It's an unbelievable tool. Love the butter cutter.
What's a butter cutter?
Oh, it's shaped like a stick of butter, and it's got metal tines. So you stand your stick of butter up and you go like this, and it cuts it into perfect long strips. Oh my Lord.
It's so hard because you're cutting them with a knife, and then by the time you go to put them on your ribs, they're stuck together again.
I'm getting you a butter cutter. I'm going to do it. I'm going to order it before I leave. You got to have a butter cutter. It's the best thing in the world.
I think I have seen those.
Courtesy Darren.
On,
Darren Worth. He's the one that showed me the butter
the
cutter.
TV ad on it.
Yeah, I remember the first time I saw him cut butter with it, I went, "What is that?
Yeah,
What sort of magic is that?"
Why didn't we think about that?
Right, and he's like, "You don't have one of these?" It's like, "No, I do it with a knife like a dummy." So, where are you on? I know that you used to use a lot of temperature controllers and stuff with the eggs, especially for the overnight. Is that still something that you prescribe to?
Yes, absolutely. That is when you asked about, technology. I'm not. I don't use a large amount of technology. Like if I do have a pick controller, I don't want to look at it on my phone.
Right.
I want to set the buttons on the pit controller, but sleep is, I try to put a value on sleep. How much is 6 hours of straight sleep worth? And for me, yeah, the first night I used temperature controller, it paid for itself. So I do love that technology, and I was lucky enough to know the original inventor and patent holder on that technology was Shotgun Fred Perkle.
Yep.
And he was a special guy, and we missed the hell out of him. But yeah, he's the one that, and I was one of the people he was testing it out on.
Yeah, Shotgun Fred. It's yeah, those things are so, especially when you're starting out and learning your pit, and it's really just gives you a little bit of a confidence, but also a little bit of a you can relax.
But I always recommend for people to learn how to do it manually first, so that you can understand what's going on, and then hook up the controller. And I was even kind of anal about when I put the temperature controller on. Shotgun Fred and the Guru guys always told me, just hook it up on there and let it get your fire going and all that. And it just drove me crazy, that air blowing on my fire. It's
Didn't like it.
No, I wanted to get it all started and going the way I like to do it. And once I had everything dialed in, then I would let the controller take over.
Yeah.
I just felt much more comfortable then.
Absolutely. Let's talk about people.
People.
So who's impacted your life the most in competition barbecue? That's a big question for you because you've been.
Yeah, and there's a lot. Mike Kerslake. From
Mikey.
Canada, like the co-founder of Dizzy Pig. There would be no Dizzy Pig without him, and no competition team. So I guess he would be the single largest impact on my life. As far as mentors go, Dr. Barbecue, my buddy Ray Lampe and Rod Gray were both really important early mentors.
Yeah.
But it was, it was actually like 20 years of conversation with all these different pit masters. But as far as individuals, probably those three guys.
And Rod's now president of KCBS.
Rod is president of KCBS.
Yeah, he's 6 weeks in now.
Why did it take so long?
I don't know. But I think he's going to do a great job, so I'm pretty excited about it. And I'm excited to see him next week.
No, there's no way he won't do a good job.
He doesn't have it in him, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't have it in him. When you think of the word successful in terms of barbecue, who's the first person that comes to mind?
Tuffy Stone. In my mind, maybe it's because I was so close to him. Obviously Myron is out there as far as successful goes. He's killing it. But thinking back on the, I've spent a lot more time with Tuffy, and amazing guy, and we've learned like so much from each other and from those late night conversations. And
Yeah.
And he's won every major competition there is.
Probably a couple times over.
Pretty successful.
Yeah.
And it looks like he's having a good time as well. He works too damn hard, but I think he's having a good time.
He's doing great. And I was wrong earlier when I said that this was the second in person. This is the third. Bill Gillespie, Tuffy Stone, and now you. The 3 in person.
Okay.
I went down and saw him, and just
I've been trying to get Tuffy to go fishing. I can't pin that guy down.
He's been traveling a lot.
Yeah.
Teaching and cooking all over the place. And oh, well. Get to see him next week, I think. So when you were competing heavy and you had an issue with a meet, who would you call? So many people would call you for advice. Who would you call for advice?
I would look around and see who's currently getting awards.
Smart.
And go talk to them. Yeah, I mean, it's changing so much. It's changing so fast. I would want to hear a few different opinions before I try to solve any problem.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Try and get a consensus or just get a bunch of different ideas.
Yeah.
But the key to that is practice too.
Right.
Like making sure.
It was, and also it'd be interesting to talk to some of these guys that have been doing it forever and still succeeding the way it is now, like Darren Worth.
Yeah.
What the hell? I mean,
it's impressive. The span of relevance.
Yeah.
Is amazing.
Yeah.
And he won probably about 6 weeks ago. He won another one, and I called him and I said, "What'd you do?" He goes, "Decided to stop screwing around." I was like, "So the midlife crisis is over?" Like, he's like, "Midlife crisis." I'm like, "That's what I've been calling it. I didn't know how to explain it. You're just screwing around with everything." He's like, "Yeah, I'm locked in now." I'm like, "Okay, good."
He cracks me up. We always had great conversations. But I was Smokey D's. Come on, yeah, you got to talk to him.
He's my answer to that question usually. So, well, he's the one that pretty much taught me how to cook on the Jambo.
Right.
So, if I have an issue, that's where I'm
and
going.
some of these newer up and coming teams that are kicking ass, I don't even know them. You know.
Yeah. And classes have changed barbecue a lot in that, you can go take a class, buy 4 drums, and be relevant.
That's one thing we didn't have when we started,
right?
At all, really.
Right. What was that like without classes and you had to?
Yeah, you had to
to
learn.
glean.
If it wasn't for Rod Gray's advice, who knows where the hell we would have ended up? You know what I mean? Because after we won that first contest in 2004, 05 and 06, we won half the contests we competed in. It was ridiculous, and I told the guys, don't get used to this. Like, This is just our time, man. Like, and if it wasn't for that advice of locking things in, we could have never done that.
Yep, lock it in. That's the key. What was? So you've already mentioned this, though. Getting that advice from Rod is probably your biggest turning point as a pit master. Here comes my favorite question that I've been wanting to ask you, because I know a lot of these. I haven't been around. And do you have any habits, rituals, or routines, like superstitions or things that you had to do at a contest?
Yeah, you know us. Yeah, I mean, we really put having fun as a priority, you know. And one of our routines was just to bring a bottle or two of really good tequila, you know, $80 or more if preferable, you know, like añejo, just beautiful stuff. And so we would regularly pass it around
Oh yeah.
And as soon as we open it, we would say like Dizzy Pig, Dizzy Pig, Dizzy Pig, and then we do a little baby sip. I mean, like an eyedropper. You know what I mean? Like you could fill up an eyedropper, and that's how much we're sipping. But when people come into our site, you know, they think that we're hammering down, and we hand them the bottle, and you can see the bubbles coming up in the bottom, and kind of takes them out of their game a little bit sometimes.
A little bit of a head game, huh?
Yeah, I don't know about a head. Yeah, I guess we would call it a head game. It's not.
Eventually, tequila ends up being a head game.
Yeah. But no, that was a regular, and you know, people on the team, you know, would all, if they were in the liquor store and saw a bottle we hadn't tried yet, they'd pick it up. Sometimes we'd end up with 3 bottles of tequila there.
Not by the end of the weekend. And you guys were always usually Thursday arrivals as well. Yes.
Yeah, to this day, I'm early for everything.
Me too.
I don't need the stress of being late, man. I know the feeling, and it's not fun, and it's not good for your blood pressure. So
It's not good for your brain.
I'm early for everything.
I had it happen 2 weeks ago,
Oh, yeah?
Recovery Fest. Didn't get on the road until late, and then got lost when I got down there because I had it in a different place. And I ended up not parking until around, I think it was 12:30 on Friday.
And you're probably ready to just blast off.
Injections are at 10, and I missed that, and
Yeah.
I was in a bad mood and stressed out, and my cook reflected every one of those things.
Right.
Every one of them. And I told myself, I said, at a ward, somebody texted me and said, "How'd you think you did?" I went, "Shitty." Like,
Yeah.
like it was wrong from the beginning, and
I mean, out of 134 contests, I don't even know if there was 2 that we didn't get there a full day early.
right.
You know, it was always like, you know, you spent all that time just getting settled in and kind of getting ready to go to work on Friday.
Right.
And getting all the partying out of your system, all that stuff on Thursday. And, you know, and then we'd have a good, like, breakfast on Friday.
Absolutely.
And then we'd come back, from, you know, all ready to go. And people are pulling in and setting up. And we're like, how are they going to, like, I don't understand the, like, it's supposed to be some fun here. You know?
You're also, I know this, that you love listening to music when you cook.
Yeah. Oh, pretty much with almost everything I do.
Everything you do. And what kind of music what are you listening to these days?
Oh man, I've got Spotify now. I mean, I had an iPod that had like 7,000 or 70,000 songs on it. I had them in playlists, and my iPod kicked the bucket. I got on to Spotify. So my library that I'm building up is now a little over 3,000 songs, I think. And there's a lot that was on my iPod, but I'm listening to a lot of new stuff.
Yeah.
Newer stuff as well. I love that we have, you know, they have the ability to kind of see what you're grooving on and like suggest
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
certain things. So I've learned about some really cool new bands. But I like something with a beat and a groovy bass line and some originality. I mean, these classic rock songs that I'm 61, so I've been listening to, you know, classic rock since it was classic. And
When it was just rock.
yeah, and there's a bunch of songs out there that really I wouldn't care if they dropped off the face of the earth, and I could never listen to it again, like Sultans of Swing by Dire Straits. I mean, come on, really? How many years are you supposed to be able to listen to that song
I can't anymore.
and still like it? So you won't find any of that stuff on my playlist. You know, but I love like the Allman Brothers, Little Feat, Derek Trucks, Tom Petty. You know, who doesn't like Tom Petty anyway? The Los Lobos has been around for like 45 years now.
They're amazing.
Their stuff always makes me feel good. So, you know, if I'm not a fan of music that was done by people that are pissed off at the world, like that's just really not what I want to hear when I'm out cooking barbecue. But we could talk about this subject actually for quite a while.
I know. And maybe we do a part 2 someday. We just talk about tunes because I think
that'd be fun and actually have some people chime in.
Absolutely, it's we've also huge Spotify fans got in that early and was like, this is great, just for finding new things. But now we've gone way far over the deep end. Like, there's the Ultimate Barbecue playlist, which is probably about 140 songs that Kim and I both have to love.
Right.
If one of us doesn't love it, it does not go.
I got you.
Then we have individual meat turn-in lists.
Okay.
So 7 to 8 songs for each meat, and they play in that order every time. So something's happening when that song comes on, and
but you need more on those playlists, right? So you're not hearing the same group
I have the same 8 songs for each meat in the same order every time.
Oh, okay. So but you're going to want to change that after.
I do, right? And I've gotten a little bit more lenient about that song. I've had enough of that song. I'll put this song in. Then you'll hear a song like I heard "Can I Get Up" from Jay-Z, and I'm like, that has to be on my pork list. But then something's got to come off,
right?
So
wow.
It's gotten to that.
That's pretty rigid.
It is, and I broke the rule last week, or I didn't break the rule, but we were cooking out of a pop-up up in Lake Placid, and these people were watching me do brisket. And I told them they could come around and watch, but NWA was on, and I told them in very clear language that wasn't changing. And halfway through,
Kim will let you know too. If something is missing,
100%.
One day she's gonna be like, "Come on."
But she's sneaky, man. She'll throw songs on the ultimate list that she really likes, and that's how she tests them on me.
Oh,
so like if it's on,
no pre-approval.
She's getting a little daring with it, but she's also introduced me to some cool stuff. So
okay, there you go.
Can't really argue with it. Yeah, we're going to do a part 2 on that.
Yeah,
and we'll do we'll do that one live, and we'll take questions.
Right.
Talk about music. That'll be awesome. When you were getting ready for a competition, was your planning the week of the same? Like each week?
Yeah, I mean that's what. Yeah, absolutely. Because we had, like our system. Really, the last 4 years we competed, almost nothing changed about our timeline or our recipes. So it was all about preparing the marinades, and we got kind of going down a time-consuming road, which actually I would recommend if you have the time to make your own pork stock and beef stock for the injections. Mm-hmm. That's what you want. That's the flavor that you want to use in your injection. Obviously, you could put some MSG or salt in it, which I do. But having a good smoke roasted stock, go to the Asian market and pick up neck bones and even a couple of hoofs in there if you want, and throw all those pork bones or beef bones in a half pan or a whole pan with some onions, and smoke roast those things on your smoker at like 350 until they're caramelized. The onions are caramelized, the bones are caramelized, and they got a little bit of really light smoke on it. You don't want a heavy wood smoke on that injection. Because you're controlling the amount of smoke that's on your meat, and you should be able to. But that high temp smoke roasted flavor on those bones is freaking incredible. And we just throw them all in a big pot, throw a few more onions in there, cook them, adding water once in a while for 24 hours.
That's awesome. And
then strain it off, put it in the fridge, and it'll turn into like a gelatin, which is also going to help the mouthfeel of your product, because you've got all that melted collagen that you're putting back in there. So I had to make sure that was done. I had to make my brine. Brian Junkins was doing that actually for a couple of years, and some reason stopped doing that. I forget what actually happened there, but yeah, no, it's all about just you following the system and finding the meats. You know how much of a challenge that can be sometimes.
Absolutely.
You know, especially now what they're doing with ribs. Have you seen the ribs at Costco and BJ's now? They're cutting the end of the bones off to make little riblets.
Yeah.
And they're selling St. Louis cuts with like half of a bone.
Yeah, they're awful.
It's wrong.
And unusable.
No, they're totally unusable.
Even for cooking at home,
Yeah,
I would argue.
So, I mean, like that just happened in the last year. So, you know, if I got back into competing, I'd be like, what am I going to do with my ribs now? Like, where am I going to get those? But anyway, that's what the prep is like, you know, just kind of making sure I have everything and that I like the quality of the meats that I'm getting.
Yeah. One of the most important things I think that pitmasters need to listen to is their gut and their gut feelings when they're cooking. You're a big time feel cook. How do you relate to those gut feelings that you should be doing something if it's not within your timeline? It just looks and seems like it.
Never ignore it. Never ignore it. Doesn't mean you have to act on it right away. A lot of times most of the time I'll hit the other people on the team. Dude, I think we gotta. I think the temperature's got to go up here a little bit, or you know, whatever it might be. You gotta trust it, and yeah, you do not ignore your gut feeling, and yeah, that's
You can't. It's
but that's one of my biggest things is that I think people don't understand a lot of times what their mind is capable of. You're just trusting your feelings and also what you see, what you smell, what you hear. A lot of people are missing that, and I'm really worried about it. Like
that was one of the biggest lessons in your class was that you can't just rely on your timeline.
Right.
You need to rely on every one of your senses that you have available to you.
Absolutely.
I remember that from learning in your garage.
Yeah, and then like the first time that you heard the drip pan that was like hissing and popping when it never really did before, you were on it, you know?
Was there ever, do you have an example of when that gut feeling or intuition didn't make any sense at all but worked?
I couldn't think of anything. Yeah, I'm sure there was a bunch of small things, but I have a lot of gut feelings.
Right.
I've got gut feelings popping up all day.
I think I mostly get them around rack time.
Right.
You know, open the cooker and look in. Okay, I'm not supposed to do that for 15 minutes, but it really looks like I should do it right now. And that's kind of where that and at the end on the cutting board.
And I just thought of this while we're talking now. Other people's gut feelings.
Oh, wow.
Somebody else on the team says, you know, yeah, I think that's time to come off or whatever it is. And if you don't listen to that, you just messed up. Like,
yeah.
Other people's gut feelings are just as important as yours.
And that's a huge point. Because you got to have people around you that you trust.
Absolutely.
And that know what you're trying to accomplish.
Especially when you're trying to figure out what food to put in the box. Now, you know what a challenge that could be.
Yeah. And Kim has become really good.
Yeah, good.
Especially taste-wise.
Well, that's cool because you can trust her so that's what happened with our team was I was like, especially after I got that like tick bite and I got the meat allergy where I shouldn't even be eating like beef and pork. I really had to count on them to tell me what they thought.
Yeah,
and
so important.
Like Brian's wife Nicole was really good with it, and actually everybody on the team was.
Yeah.
I could trust everybody. If they didn't have an opinion, they wouldn't say anything. You know.
Right. Yeah, you're only as good as the people you surround yourself with, and we actually have quite a sizable contingent going out to the Royal this year, so
right.
I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, we can't. We've gone. Wow. That feels like we just started talking.
Yeah.
But we got to hit the rapid fire questions.
All right.
These are my favorites. What do you see about barbecue on social media that upsets or bothers you?
Well, that I can't smell and taste it, and that it probably doesn't taste as good as it looks. But also, the whole bacon wrap shit. I don't get it, man. I don't understand that whole thing.
I don't.
Like, ABTs are awesome. If you cook them right, they're awesome. Almost everything else wrapped in bacon is just like, why did you do that? You know, why did you like totally prevent a flavor crust from being created on your meat? And now you got to worry about trying to cook that bacon perfectly and the meat perfectly, and the bacon's never gonna. It's never good.
You can't get it right. I've done that also in the business side. Like, people are like, why don't you have bacon in your mac and cheese? And I'm like, 'cause don't need it.
Yeah,
And, somebody that's vegetarian can come and eat.
yeah.
If I have that in there,
That's
they can
right.
eat. It's,
Well, how about some crunchy bacon served on the side? Now you're talking.
yeah,
Right?
And you can incorporate it yourself.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite pre, during, or post competition meal?
We ate well, that's for sure.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
We always had someone that was bringing, Chuck would always bring the local Jersey corn and make a corn casserole. And but yeah, post competition, yeah, it ain't barbecue. Usually going to be Chinese or Italian, pizza or Italian, I think, or maybe fried chicken. During, I'm usually not hungry. I don't know if you're that way, but when I'm cooking and I'm bathed in the smoke and bathed in the process, I don't even feel like eating. And just trying the chicken and the ribs and the pork and the brisket is enough for me usually during the competition.
I have to get something in for breakfast.
Yeah,
and
that's why I love New Holland.
Oh yeah.
What's that place called? That little a place attached to the hotel.
Oh my gosh.
Right there. Yeah, you just walk over the railroad tracks, and man, it's a great breakfast. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. It was always like different because we had, that's the great thing about hanging out with cooks is you never know what they're going to bring and start cooking.
Oh, absolutely. And I've had some amazing bites of food from everybody on your team. Susan, Teresa, Brian, Nicole. Everybody. It's always been tasty.
Yep. Chuck, Woo Doggies.
Oh, yeah. That's right. Jason.
Oh, he cooked his famous mac and cheese for Dizzy Fest.
Oh, really?
It was gone in minutes. As fast as $100. There's like 8 kinds of cheese in it.
It's insane. Dizzy Fest just happened this past Saturday.
Yes, it did.
That's where a bunch of cooks come here to the Dizzy Pig headquarters and throw up the tents and cook food all day.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it was. It's a member event, so it's a good way to get around the health department thing for anybody out there that might be listening and wants to have an event like that. Just make it members only. Just members cooking for members. Yeah, we had over 300 people here. We had a band, and 12 volunteer teams were cooking their specialties and we had the Dizzy Pig tank going, and we were putting out a lot of food.
Nice.
Yeah, it was an awesome day. And
The
weather was perfect.
It's one of my goals to get back to doing that.
Yes.
I need to know when the next one's scheduled so I can just block that day.
I'll do it.
Come here and just cook all day. It's so much fun. Do you have a favorite present that you like to give to people?
Full disclosure, I'm not really good at giving presents. But yeah, like a bottle of tequila is normally one of my favorite things to give, or some kind of a consumable that the gift receiver might enjoy having.
My favorite gift is definitely alcohol.
Yeah.
It's easy. They're going to enjoy it, and it'll get it used.
Yeah, right.
It's not going to sit on a shelf or get put away somewhere. Last question. If If you could have a giant billboard anywhere with anything on it, getting a message out to millions or billions, what would it say and why?
Yeah, I mean, I would probably need a copywriter to come up with something that's billboard worthy, but basically it would be like, and it goes back to the gut feeling thing you were talking about too, is don't forget how powerful your mind is. Like, don't forget what you can do with your mind, you know. You can do so much without looking at your phone. And I always recommend to younger people that they actually like do that. Like, you know, guess what time it is before you look at the time. Every time that you want to know the time, try to make a guess first. Guess how fast you're going in your car. Then look down at the speedometer. Guess what temperature your meat's at before you put a probe in it.
That's a good one.
And then when you put the probe in it, right, and so your mind will start adjusting until you can do all these things without any technology. And I'm really worried about that with the phones. Like, I'm just waiting for that day when the phones go out and people are driving around in circles. They have no idea where they're at.
Can't call anybody for help.
It's worrisome to me to think of, but really all that stuff's there in your mind. And if you get a copywriter to put that together, I'll buy some billboard space.
All right, my friend. Well, tell people where they can find you, find Dizzy Pig online.
Yeah, well, basically you can put the words like Dizzy Pig into Google, and it'll take you, like, our site will pop up on there. There is a, like, dizzypig.com, but don't go there. It doesn't work. You know, somebody else snagged that domain, has been holding on to it for 20 years that we've been in business. It's dizzypig BBQ.com.
Absolutely. From there, you can get out to all their different social medias and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, you can follow us. We got. I think we're on Facebook as like Dizzy Pig Seasonings, but you can find us on pretty much all the platforms. We're not doing great with putting out massive amounts of video content on YouTube, but there's some cool stuff on there to watch.
Absolutely.
Yep, and we have a cool thing going on right now that was an idea of mine, and that's I've noticed over the last 20 years that people who try our product usually come back for more, and they want to try other flavors, and they become loyal customers, which is awesome. But I know there's a lot of people out there that haven't tried it, and I really want them to. So we have a deal on our website called a Try Me Sampler Packs. So go to the website. I think it's under packages. There's a Try Me like sampler pack that's $10 shipped to your door for 5 samples of Dizzy Pig, which is basically our cost. We're shipping it for free. We're putting
That's awesome.
5 seasonings, and you can choose from chicken, beef, vegetables, our most popular. So we have like several combinations of flavors you can try. So that's the best way to try them. So if anybody's out there and is curious about what's true craft seasoning tastes like that we grind right here in house, try it out. It's $10.
Man, I'm just going through the catalog in my brain. Like Mediterranean dishes that use every day in our house. I've won more money with cowlick than any other rub on the planet, and that'll never ever change. It's just hands down one of the best beef rubs out there, and it's great on chicken wings. I mean,
I've heard that. I haven't tried it.
Love it on chicken wings.
I don't know why I haven't tried it.
But it's if you look at our brisket numbers, you can trace it back to one single solitary rub. So, well, Chris, it's always great spending time with you, my friend.
Always good to even hanging out with you, but sitting here and being able to talk barbecue with you and actually have other people listen to it's really cool.
Yep, and I'm just excited to see what's coming next. See what you got. Any new things coming out soon?
We did the SPG line last year.
Very good.
We did a kind of I wanted to call it like Simple Man, but I got a little pushback because from the women. I don't know what the problem was with that, but we ended up calling it SPG. But we have a SPG with herbs in it, SPG with chilies, garlic heavy SPG with a little bit of dill seed that makes it taste like butter. All really like simple, basic like seasonings that I'm surprised how much like we're using them in our kitchen. We have them right on the back of the stove. But I got no other. I've got some ideas, but I want to take a break. We have 34 flavors already.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah,
They're all good. They really are.
appreciate that, my friend.
So did you guys get out there, get the sample pack from the dizzypig.com, dizzypigbbq.com. You won't regret it. It'll change your life. So, my friend, thank you.
Thank you, man.
Thank you for listening to Pitmaster, an Old Virginia Smoke podcast. Be sure to subscribe and like the podcast, rate the podcast, and to share it out with all your friends. Also, be sure to check out the Old Virginia Smoke YouTube channel as well. Tune in next week for another great episode of Pitmaster. For companies interested in advertising, please contact Old Virginia Smoke directly via www.oldvirginiasmoke.com. Pitmaster, an Old Virginia Smoke podcast, is edited by Chris Capell. Pitmaster, an Old Virginia Smoke podcast, is a property of Old Virginia Smoke, LLC. All rights reserved. Copyright 2022.
Old Virginia.